They say charity starts at home. Guess what? So does recruiting.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Marc, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, it's always free, and I always appreciate your support. The saying, charity starts at home, it simply means this. I mean, it's really easy. You should take care of your family, others who live close by to you, before you start helping other people that live further away from you. Sounds kind of like how you should probably approach recruiting too, huh? Well, USC's general manager, Chad Bowden, knows how to talk the talk, and he said he wants USC to stay close to home. The media got a chance to sit down, hang out with USC's general manager, Chad Bowden, on Monday, the start of the week. And he offered up he brought up again, his vision, Coach Riley's vision, the program's vision. And it was touching on a variety of different topics. Most of it was focused on recruiting, NIL, getting USC back to where it belongs on the national stage. So he had some really nice quotes, and I guess it starts with recruiting, and that road starts and ends at home. Quote, "We're going to do everything through the city. We're going to do everything through the state. That's going to be our primary focus," end quote. And he continued. He said, if you look into successful programs, they build their rosters locally. And he wants that to be the same for USC. That was a key part of USC being on top. He said, he was talking about that run that USC was under with Pete Carroll as the head coach. My plans and my vision is to bring that back and to take care of the state. And the state deserves it. And I want these fans, every time that they come to the Coliseum and our kids run out the tunnel, that they feel that. And that the kids feel it too. It will mean so much more to the kids. It will mean so much more to our fan base. It will mean so much more to all of us, end quote. When he wanted to kind of back that up a little bit. So he reflected on his time when he was at University of Cincinnati. He said that about half the team was from the city of Cincinnati, plus another 20 to 30% of the roster was from the state of Ohio. I've talked about this in the past. What he's talking about makes a lot of sense. Protecting the hood, right? He said it just meant so much more to them going and playing for their home and going to play and represent their family. And that's what we're going to do here. And that's how we're going to recruit, end quote. Look, I know this next comment from me is going to be dripping with sarcasm. So for those of you who aren't sure, I'm being sarcastic. But did Coach Riley really need someone to tell him this? Stay home, recruit the local kids. You don't need to leave the state. No, of course not. However, it's been a topic for Bowden since he started the process. He said it comes up in every talk that he's had with Coach Riley. It started early. Let me give you another quote. Our very first phone call, we were talking about recruiting and really the entire country, and we both agree, and we both together kept bringing it up. Man, this California class is special. I think the 26th class is the best class that California has had in 2 decades. If you really study what those classes look like, at least the top 30 or 40 players in the state, I think this is the best class in 2 decades. We're going to take the most high school kids this place has ever taken this year. And I truly believe a culture can build through recruiting, and it can be done especially when they're from high school. I've never been a part of what we're about to do when it comes to how many guys we're going to take, end quote. Just to remind everybody, when Lane Kiffin took over the program, sanctions were being levied against USC. I believe he brought in 30 guys back then in that first class. The whole idea was, stock up, get as many guys on the roster as possible for those sanctions kicked in, where you're going to be restricted by 10 scholarships for the next 3 years. So get 30 now and try and just keep the thing going and survive. Here's the difference, though. What Chad Bowden's talking about is right now the scholarship limit is 85. That number is increasing up to 105. So basically, it's stack them and rack them, right? Get everybody you can. Doesn't matter. It's not like you have unlimited numbers, but you can have up to 105 scholarships. So, and let's keep this in mind. With the transfer portal, you need to have guys on the shelf because guys are transferring out all the time. It almost feels like you're going back in time a little bit. Remember John McKay? He would just take everybody in the state, stick them on the bench. You couldn't play freshmen anyways, and just develop them. So when the next guy moved on, boom, plug and play. A little different, but you get the idea. Excuse me. Now, Chad Bowden's next comment, this one really caught my attention, and it feels like he chose his words really carefully. He mentioned that for the first 30 days, all he's done, and I'm using finger quotes right now, is help enhance that relationship between USC and the important people within the city and state when it comes to recruiting. With the people within this quote, with people within the city that matter, we are going to take care of those people, and they're going to know that we're here. And that's not done over one call. That's not done over a text message every day. It's done through consistent communication and action. And we're going to do that every single day so people within the city and within the state know that this is the best place for their kids, and it's the best place for families and coaches and everybody to come here and bring their guys and feel welcomed, end quote. That underlined part I want to highlight. Help enhance that relationship. Let me be honest here, all right? I'm just going to shoot straight from the hip. When you listen to that statement, at least to me, in its entirety, it sounds more like repair those relationships. Or at least, at the very least, not take them for granted anymore. Whether it's the coaches, high school coaches, 7-on-7, mentors, whatever, players, handlers, parents, enhancing that relationship, repairing it, reminding people how important they are. It's semantics. But with that said, Chad Bowden said this about Coach Riley and his recruiting acumen. Quote, he is, as a recruiter, the best I've been around. There's two elements of recruiting. This is the first coach I've been around who evaluates prospects. So when I say recruiting, this is a guy who holistically can do it all, end quote. All right. So again, Chad Bowden, he's coming in to kind of be the point man, maybe. The guy to, I don't want to say smooth things over, but to make sure that there's no misunderstanding with whatever's being communicated. He can come in and say, hey, no, this is what we're talking about. And then as far as Coach Riley, he's concerned, he thinks Coach Riley can identify talent with the best of them. I don't think anybody disagrees with that, especially if we're talking on the offensive side of the ball. We've all heard it said before, history repeats itself. Everything is cyclical in college football. Chad Bowden wanted to really emphasize this. He said, quote, I do a lot of research at every place I've been. And something that we found is back when national championships were won here and Rose Bowls were won here, you look back at Pete Carroll's classes, 02, 03, 04, over 80% of the recruiting classes were always from the state of California. And history repeats itself. It always does. And if you look into the fine details of how programs are built and how the place was built And when successes had happened, that was a key part of USC being on top. My plans and my vision is to bring that back and to take care of the state, and the state deserves it, end quote. So, right, that number right there. He said he did the research. He looked at all the numbers. 02, 03, 04, that's when USC was rolling, right? They were in the middle of that 34-game win streak all the way up through 2005. But that was when they were recruiting literally, they were taking everybody in California, all the best players, and then cherry picking guys from across the country. So, like they say, charity starts at home. Let's take care of those recruits who are closest to USC right now. As you look at USC's class of 2026, they got 11 commitments. 64% of them are from the state of California. And we know USC's not even close to being done with this class. So I think we're going to see that percentage go even higher when everything's all said and done at the end of the recruiting cycle. So there you go. There's some quotes from Chad Bowden. I have a lot more. We'll talk about that throughout the week, but I wanted to get you the ones that really stood out the most after what I heard from him. All right. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. The easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, Free Trade Master Program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Masters program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, you can use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. One of the more frustrating things USC fans heard last season from Coach Riley, and you probably heard it from me as well, was when Coach would talk after a game, after a close loss, how close the team was. One play here, one call there, the ball bounces differently, yada, yada, yada. We all heard it. We're close. All of those close losses, right? Well, Chad had something to say about that as well. He was talking about USC's roster. He was asked, how close is USC's roster as far as being competitive nationally? He had this to say. There are small things that make the biggest difference that you can change. I really don't want to get into that, but there are small things that you can enhance on a football program in which you win the fourth quarter. And it's the smallest details. And this place is incredibly close. I'm going to repeat that. There are small things that can make the biggest difference that you can change. I really don't want to get into that, but there are small things that you can enhance a football program with, in which you win the fourth quarter. And it's the smallest details, and this place is incredibly close. All right? So it's all in the details. The small things make the difference. That part where I really don't want to get into that, I don't think he wanted to, get into the play calling, throw that under the bus, or even, talk about the personnel that's on the field. But winning the fourth quarter and the smallest details could be about clock management, situational awareness, obviously player execution on the field. again, it was an interesting comment, and I'm not going to try and get into get into Chad's head or get ahead of him. But when you're talking about the smallest details, it's really ambiguous there with that answer. So again, I don't think he wanted to kind of go back and say, yeah, it was these things last year. He wasn't here, so it's probably not his place to kind of point the finger, right? One of the hottest talking points when it comes to USC and its roster was finding, the right balance between academics, culture, NIL. So, Chad had this to say. Academics to me is number one. And our initiation in recruiting will be through what this degree can do for these kids in development for them on and off the field. Now, when it comes to NIL potential, this is what he had to say. We're going to untap every resource that this place has, whether it's been buried for a little bit or whether it's been at the surface. We're going to utilize every resource and we're going to focus on it. And to me, resources are people. It's always people. People make the place, and the right people are at USC. We're as aggressive as anyone. We might even be the most aggressive. And our aspirations for what we're going to do in NIL is going to be as high as anybody in the country. And I hope people know it. All right. He threw it out there. USC and NIL, they're going to do whatever's necessary. They're going to talk to the right people. They're going to make sure they have the right people in the bullpen. In other words, they're going to make sure they have the right people who want to write the checks, right? For me, the proof is going to be in the pudding. We know right now USC's recruiting, it's on a roll. No one's going to deny that. Depending on which recruiting service you want to use, USC either has the number 1 or number 2 class in the country. So if USC wins 9 or 10 games in 2025, guys are going to come. That's not going to be a problem. We'll find out, though, on signing day if that aggressiveness paid off, pun intended. So, yeah, history repeats itself. College football is cyclical. There was one other cliche that, I didn't go over that's usually attached to USC. USC football is a sleeping giant. Chad Bowden touched on that. Quote, I always felt like USC was the sleeping giant of college football. And I remember always thinking, if I ever get that opportunity deep down, I'd want to take it because I know what this place can do. And it's the recruiting landscape. It's the state of California. It's the city of Los Angeles, the greatest city in the United States. And when USC football is at its highest, there's nothing better for college football. There's nothing better in the city. There's nothing better going on across the country, end quote. Look, I get it. Sell, sell, sell. You got to have that passion. You got to believe in what you're saying. Chad will make you a believer. The way he talks, the way he emphasizes things, and he believes it. I'll tell you what, though. Excuse me. Remember Rick Neuheisel, his passion bucket? Chad's passion bucket is overflowing. He is diving into the deep end. Doesn't matter if the water's cold. He is dove in. He's ready to go. And he will stay out there and he will continue to swim until, I don't know, does he get tired? Will he get tired? We'll find out. But right now, you got to like what he's saying. And I'm going to talk more about what he said throughout the week. But in this next segment, give you a little bit of a recruiting update. A couple of defensive players. If you're an everyday listener or a viewer of the show, last week, you heard me outline the official visits that are already being lined up. Long list, so make sure you go check it out. I pointed out specifically it's not a weekend, but one recruiting date, the date of June 17th. It's pretty exclusive. It's meant for the guys at USC wants to stay home. Well, those 2 days, June 17th through the 19th, it had a group of 4. Just to remind everybody who they were. It was Brandon Arrington, defensive back from San Diego, Marc Bowman, the tight end who reclassified from Mater Dei, Talanoa Ely, the linebacker from Olu, Orange Lutheran, and Tomahini Tapui, Tom, the defensive tackle, who's currently committed to Oregon from Mater Dei. USC's in a really good spot with him right now. USC added one more player. I told you that if USC adds anybody, it was somebody of real importance. Well, here's who they've added. Kini Pepe. That's, Kobe Pepe's little brother. He's going to take a visit to USC unofficially April 26th, which is supposed to be the day USC would be playing their spring game. We know they're not doing that this year, but he'll be out here for that event. And then he's going to return to Los Angeles for that official visit June 17th. So now that exclusive visit is up to 5 players. All of them originally from California. Right now, Kini is playing for IMG Academy in the state of Florida. But he's from Southern California. So 6'6", 275 pounds. He also has official visits set up for Miami, May 30th, Georgia, June 13th, and he said it's either going to be Tennessee or Texas on June 20th, and he might also take an official visit to Florida on June 6th, so we'll see. He said this, quote, they, USC, literally has been calling me every day. They've called me every day for the last week. I've been talking with them. That's what he told Chad Simmons over there at On 3. And it's not just one person. Multiple coaches at USC are communicating with him. He's considered right now the number 14 player in the state of Florida. So not only do you have, everybody on the defensive staff talking to him, Lincoln Riley's also talking to him. And in fact, he said this, I've been talking to him a lot recently. He's talking about Coach Riley. Coach Riley has the program going in the right direction, and I like him and the staff. It's a school I'm high on because of the coaches and the people there. End quote. So just to kind of remind everybody, Kobe Kini, he grew up a USC fan. Somebody else who he talks to a lot, and I'm telling you, folks, you better remember this name. He's one of those behind-the-scenes guys, but he is one of the more important guys on USC's staff. Aaron Ama, just call him Coach Dog. He's an assistant director of player personnel. When Kini was talking about USC and the staff, Lincoln Riley, he made sure to point out Coach Dog. He said, yeah, he's my guy. So when USC eventually gets his signature, make sure Coach Dog gets his flowers. I cannot tell you how important he is. He is a mover and a shaker in the Polynesian community. He knows everybody. I'm talking about Coach Dog. And USC's class of 2026, there's a lot of good Polynesian players in the state. And Coach Dog is probably the tip of the spear. He's the point man for that. We know that USC's 2026 class right now, currently, it's loaded with California guys, especially defensive backs. And I think it's a good thing that Chad Bowden said that USC is planning to take its biggest recruiting class ever as far as high school recruits are concerned. And I bring that up because the name, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, Haven Finney, he reclassified from the class of 2027 to the class of 2026. He's considered one of the best cornerbacks in the state and the country, but in California in particular. He was previously ranked as the number 2 cornerback in the 2027 class, but he's reclassifying to 2026. 6'2", 170 pounds, plays for Sierra Canyon. Again, another local product. He told Chad Simmons of On3, following his decision to reclassify to the 2026 class, I'm planning to commit before the season. This decision speeds up the process, so I will continue to build relationships, take the visits, and make my decision. All right. As you know, when I'm not here on Locked on USC, I'm spending my time working over there at wearesc.com. My partner in crime over there, recruiting guru Scott Schrader, he made this comment. They have to go all in on him in every aspect. Let me translate that for everybody. Relationships matter, right? So you can have guys like Coach Dog. You can have guys like Bookie Radley Hiles, who is also somebody who is real popular among California recruits. But as much as relationships matter, so does money. So again, when you hear that you have to go all in every aspect, yeah, it's going to cost you something. So the question is, how many cornerbacks does USC take in the 2026 class? It's a deep class for sure. You've already got Brandon Lockhart. You already have RJ Sermons, Madden Reardon, Joshua Holland. You still have Brandon Arrington hanging out there. How many players are you going to bring in? I think the reason you're seeing so many reclassifications, I would anticipate more. All this has to do with NIL. Right? I've been telling you guys, right now they're having conversations about paying players, revenue sharing, rules that are, they're going over all that right now. Well, they're also talking about putting guardrails in place for NIL. That's why you're seeing so many young men, kids, reclassifying for 2026. They want to take advantage of while the money's out there, so to speak. Because I don't think it's going to be out there next year. So this is all strategic. It's all about getting your money now before the rules get put into place. All right. So there you go. I think we covered quite a bit today on this episode. And there's a lot more to talk about, but I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.